God damn it, I should have walked away the moment he called me the strong one. I'm Ariana, the eldest daughter, the dependable one, the one they always needed but never chose. For years, I paid their bills and cleaned up their mess, but when I found out what they left me in the will, or rather, what they didn't, everything unraveled. I've always believed being responsible was a virtue, maybe even a kind of quiet superpower. My name is Ariana Bennett. I'm 32 years old, a financial manager at a mid-sized investment firm in Portland. I live alone in a small but tidy apartment near Forest Park, where the mornings are quiet and the air always smells faintly of pine and rain. It's not luxurious, but it reflects who I am. Neat, practical, and always in control. Or at least, that's what I tell myself. From the outside, my life probably looks fine. Steady job, independence, the freedom to choose. But beneath that calm surface is a long, invisible thread pulling me back to Salem, to the 2-story house I grew up in, to my parents, and to Brandon. I've been financially supporting my family since I graduated college. It wasn't even a decision, really. It just happened. When Mom needed back surgery, I paid for it outright. When the old pipes started leaking, I hired contractors and handed over $8,000 like it was routine. Every month without fail, I send home money. At first, $500. Then $800. Now $1,200. I barely think about it anymore. Automatic transfer. Done. No one asked me to be the family backbone, but no one stopped me either. Then there's Brandon, my younger brother by 4 years. No degree, no direction, just a string of hobbies that never turn into jobs. Some months, Mom would call me in a hushed voice, her words filled with rehearsed concern. Brandon's wallet got stolen again. Could you send a little extra this month, honey? I used to ask, how does one wallet keep getting stolen every year? But I never said it out loud. I just sent more, like always. He started a vintage clothing shop when he was 25. I helped him write the business plan, invested $10,000, cheered him on from the sidelines. A year later, it closed. Guess I'm not cut out to be a business owner, he said with a shrug. No guilt. No plan B. Just moved right back in with our parents, rent-free, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And somehow, I was still the one they leaned on. Mom always said, he just needs a little more time, sweetheart. More time? He's almost 30. How much time does it take to grow up? It's strange, isn't it? You can give everything, time, money, energy, and still feel like a ghost in your own family. On my birthdays, I'd sit alone with a cupcake and a candle I bought myself. Meanwhile, Brandon got barbecues, gifts, smiles. Do they even notice the difference? Or do they just expect me to keep giving, no questions asked? Still, I kept going, kept showing up, kept paying the bills and cleaning up the messes. Maybe I thought they'd see me one day, not just as the dependable one, but as a daughter who needed love too. So when Mom called me one rainy Wednesday afternoon and said, "Can you come down this weekend? We need help reviewing some bank paperwork," I didn't hesitate. I cleared my Saturday. There was a small flicker of something warm in me, familiar. Maybe this time they just want to spend time with me. Maybe they see me now. But beneath that flicker, something else stirred, a quiet anxiety. Why now? What kind of paperwork? Is this just another task, another burden disguised as family need? Still, I smiled at my reflection in the mirror that morning as I packed my bag. I'm just being paranoid, I said out loud. It's just paperwork. But deep down, I already felt it, that something was about to change. It was a gray, wet Saturday, the kind of day where everything feels heavier. The sky hung low like a warning, and the rain had already begun its slow tap against my windshield as I pulled out of my apartment complex and started the quiet drive down to Salem. The roads were slick, the trees along the highway blurred into muted green. I didn't play music. Just let the hum of the engine and the occasional wipe of the wipers keep me company. Maybe it's just bank forms, I told myself. Utility bills, mortgage adjustments, nothing big. Still, my stomach fluttered with unease, like my body knew something my mind was trying to ignore. When I pulled into the driveway, Dad was outside adjusting the porch light. He gave me a brief wave and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Leaving already?" he joked, even though I'd just arrived. "Very funny, Dad," I replied, stepping out of the car. Inside, Mom greeted me with a glass of iced tea, her voice sweet and soft like always. "Can you look at these for me, honey? I can't make sense of them," she said, gesturing toward a neat stack of papers on the living room table. I nodded, set down my bag, and pulled out my laptop. She walked into the kitchen, humming lightly as she began rinsing vegetables. Everything felt so normal, comfortably scripted. The way it always had been. The stack was thick but organized. Bank forms, loan statements, utility bills from the past few months, nothing unusual at first. I worked my way through them quickly, making notes as I went. Then, tucked near the bottom, was a thinner stack, clipped together with a blue paper tab. Last Will and Testament, Stephen and Marlene Bennett. My fingers paused. My breath caught, just slightly. A will? It shouldn't have surprised me. They were getting older. Planning ahead is smart, but something in the way it was hidden, not discussed, felt off. I opened it. At first, my eyes scanned mechanically. Legalese, clauses, dates. Then they froze. We leave all assets, including the family home, savings, life insurance and land holdings, to our son Brandon Bennett. The words didn't compute. I reread them. Once, twice. My name, Ariana Bennett, was nowhere. Not even a mention. Not even a note of thanks. At the very bottom, a single sentence. We love both our children equally but believe this is necessary for the stability of the family. I blinked. Equal love? Necessary? My hands trembled as I closed the folder. For a moment, I just sat there, unable to move. The rain tapped louder against the windows like it wanted me to react. A chill crept up my spine. Is this what I've meant to them all along? A steady hand to fix the roof? A paycheck with a smile? I stood slowly, still gripping the folder, and walked into the kitchen. Mom was rinsing carrots. Her hands shivered slightly from the cold water. I held the will up at eye level. When did you write this? I asked, my voice tighter than I meant it to be. She glanced at the paper and for a second I saw it, panic. But it vanished just as fast, replaced by that same soft tone. Oh, it's been a while, she said casually. Your father and I just wanted to have everything settled. I thought you already knew. I didn't answer. She wiped her hands on a towel and stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was about to say something kind. Ariana, you have a good job, your own home, a stable life. Brandon, he's still finding his way, we just want to help him get on his feet. I laughed, not out of humor, it cracked out of me like a fault line. His feet? Mom, you're giving him the house to lie down on. She opened her mouth but I raised my hand. Don't. I turned and walked toward the front door. Outside, Dad was still fiddling with the light. He looked up as I stepped outside. Leaving already? Stay for dinner, he said with a grin. I held up the papers. Did you sign this? His eyes followed my hand. He stiffened. Yeah, but there's no need to explain. I read it. I turned, my voice quiet but sharp. I came to help with paperwork. Now I see where I stand. He started to speak. Ariana, don't misunderstand. I cut him off with one glance. I'm not misunderstanding anything. I understand it perfectly. I drove back to Portland in silence. The rain blurred the road, but my thoughts were sharper than they'd ever been. I kept seeing that sentence over and over again. We love both our children equally, but believe this is necessary. Necessary. 10 years of support, of quiet sacrifices, of skipped vacations, late nights, canceled plans just so I could send money back home. And I wasn't even a footnote in their legacy, just the background support in someone else's story. That night, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone. The reminder for the monthly bank transfer buzzed quietly, like it had every 30th of the month since I first set it up. I let it buzz once, then again. Then with one deliberate tap, I canceled it. The next morning, I got the first call. Mom, I let it ring, she called again. Then came the message. Ariana, the mortgage is coming up. Can you send it this week instead of next? No greeting. No how are you. Just straight to business. I stared at the text, blinking in disbelief. They still expected me to perform. Like nothing had changed. Like finding out they had erased me from the will was just a detail I'd brush off. I texted back, I think Brandon can handle it. The house belongs to him now. 5 minutes later my phone rang again. Mom. This time, I picked up. Ariana, don't do this, she said immediately. You know we don't have enough. Brandon's still looking for a job. Don't let a small misunderstanding tear the family apart. A small misunderstanding. My fingers clenched around the phone. This isn't a misunderstanding, Mom, I said quietly. You made a choice. I'm just finally respecting it. A pause. Then her voice softened, almost like she was speaking to a child. We just wanted to help him. He's had such a hard time. And I haven't? My voice cracked, not from anger, but from grief. I've paid for every emergency, every failure, every broken promise, and what did I get in return? A line in a will that says love is equal, while the math shows otherwise. Ariana, she whispered. We thought you wouldn't need anything. You're strong. That word, strong, as if it justified forgetting me, as if strength meant I didn't deserve tenderness or fairness or a simple thank you. That night, I sat down with my laptop, not to work, not to escape, but to tally. Line by line, I listed every dollar I had sent home over the past 7 years. Not because I wanted it back, but because I needed to see it for myself. Proof that I had done enough. More than enough. 3 days later, a message from my bank. Alert, withdrawal attempt exceeded account limit. The secondary account. The one I'd opened years ago so my parents could access help quickly in emergencies. They had tried to pull from it without asking. I closed it that same day. Permanently. Then, like clockwork, Dad's name lit up my phone. You really want us to lose the house? You won't be able to live with yourself. My hands shook, but I wasn't afraid. I was exhausted. I typed slowly, deliberately. No one's losing anything, Dad. Now you'll just have to take care of it yourselves. I'm not a bank. I'm not the daughter who fixes everything anymore. 10 minutes passed. Then Mom's message came in. We're disappointed in you. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because I realized that disappointment had always been their fallback. If I wasn't giving, I was failing. That night, I sat in my apartment, legs curled under me on the couch, the city lights glittering faintly beyond the window. For the first time in years, I didn't feel obligated to anyone. Not because I stopped loving them, but because I finally started choosing myself. And somehow, that felt like the beginning of freedom. It happened on a Saturday morning. I had just finished making coffee, black, no sugar, when the doorbell rang. At first, I thought it might be a delivery. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peeked through the peephole, my stomach dropped. There, on my doorstep, stood my mother. Next to her, arms crossed and lips tight, was my father. And behind them, with his usual slouch and a practiced look of discomfort, was Brandon. They came all the way here. No call, no warning, just showed up like I owed them something. The knock came again, harder this time, urgent, like a collector. I didn't move, but then my mother's voice pierced through the silence. Ariana, I know you're in there. I don't want to make a scene, but you're pushing this family to the edge. Edge? Funny, I thought. I've been hanging off the edge for years and none of you noticed. I called back, voice even. This isn't the time or place. Please leave. Dad's voice followed, heavier, like he had swallowed something sharp. Are you really going to ignore your parents after everything we've done for you? I opened the door. Not to argue, not to explain. I was simply tired of hiding. They stood there in formation. Mom with her arms folded, trying to look hurt but composed. Dad looking down like he was rehearsing some fatherly wisdom. Brandon with a faint smirk, like he'd seen this scene play out 100 times in his head, and expected the same ending. I crossed my arms and stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance. All right, I said, voice calm. Since you went through all this trouble, listen carefully. Mom jumped in before I could finish. Oh, you listen, she said, eyes already welling. Your father's blood pressure is bad, the house needs urgent plumbing repairs, Brandon's applying for jobs, he's trying. We just need your help for a few more months. A few more months. The same phrase they used when I was 24. Then 27. Then 30. I nodded slowly. Just like the few months last year? Or the year before? Or when you said Brandon would be independent by 25? Brandon scoffed. I never asked you to do anything. I looked at him, sharp and unblinking. No. You never had to. You knew someone else would carry it for you. Dad stepped forward. Ariana, don't let this go too far. Families have problems. They talk them out. You don't throw it all away over a piece of paper. I took a breath. My voice dropped to a whisper. That piece of paper wasn't the problem, it was the final proof. He stared at me, his expression cracking. But I didn't stop. I didn't walk away because I'm angry. I walked away because, for 10 years, I was nothing more than a wallet. When I asked for care, I was told I was strong. When I asked to be seen, I was told Brandon needed more time. Mom reached out, tried to grab my sleeve, her voice broke. You're my daughter, Ariana. I don't want to lose you over money. I stepped back, not harsh, just firm. You didn't lose me over money. You lost me when you erased me from your plans, when you handed everything to the one who never took responsibility, and left the one who did with nothing but we love both equally. I turned to each of them. I was never your child in the way Brandon was. I was your plan B, your solution, your safety net. Brandon looked away. Mom's tears finally fell. Dad clenched his jaw, saying nothing. I backed into the apartment, still holding the door open. If any of you still think I'll change my mind, you can leave now. I'm not your silent shadow anymore. Then, slowly, deliberately, I closed the door. No slam, no goodbye, just a soft click. Final, quiet, and free. 3 days of silence passed. I had hoped that after the confrontation at my door, they would take a step back, reflect, maybe even understand, if only a little. I gave them too much credit. It was Monday morning. I was getting ready for a regional director meeting, reviewing numbers with a mug of black coffee in hand, when my phone buzzed. A text. From Madison, my college roommate, now a lawyer in Seattle. Hey. Are you okay? I just saw something your mom posted on Facebook. I frowned. I hadn't checked Facebook in weeks. I only kept the account to stay in touch with a few college friends. Curious. And with a knot tightening in my gut, I opened the app. Mom's post was the first thing I saw, shared 43 times. The caption read, "It's heartbreaking as parents to see your child turn her back on you over money. We sacrificed everything to give her a future. Now in our old age she's left us behind. Our home is on the verge of foreclosure and she's too busy living her successful life to care." My breath caught, each word landed like a stone. The comments were worse. Kids these days have no gratitude. How could she do that to her own parents? I'd be ashamed to raise someone so selfish. And there, right below it, Brandon had shared the post too, with a comment, "Family is about love, not keeping score. I've made mistakes, but I never abandoned anyone." I stared at his words for a long time. Keeping score? He didn't even know the score because I'd been carrying every point on my back for a decade. Then, as if the knife needed to twist, Dad posted a separate status. "Some people think success means forgetting where they came from. It's only when we grow old and weak that we realize not every child we raised is truly ours." He tagged me, right there. Publicly. I set the phone down on the table and exhaled slowly. They had made me the villain. The cold-hearted daughter who left her aging parents to suffer. No one knew that I had kept that house standing for 10 years, that I had paid for the very roof under which they were now typing these posts. For a while I sat frozen, the injustice boiling under my skin like quiet thunder. Then, without overthinking, I opened my laptop. If they had chosen to tell only half the story, then I would tell the part they left out. I began to type. I never thought I'd post something like this, but when your family decides to rewrite the truth and cast you as the villain, sometimes silence becomes a lie too. I'm the eldest daughter of Stephen and Marlene Bennett. Since I was 23, I've been financially supporting my parents. I covered mortgage debt, paid for surgeries, repaired their home, sent money every single month. My younger brother Brandon never held a steady job. While I worked 10-hour days, he stayed home, jobless and carefree. I helped him start a business with $10,000. It failed. No repayment, no accountability. Through it all, I gave quietly, because I believe that's what family does. A week ago, I found out my parents' will leaves everything. The house, the savings, the future, to Brandon. I wasn't even mentioned. I don't resent them for making that decision. I resent being expected to continue sacrificing like it didn't matter. I didn't abandon my family. I simply stopped allowing myself to be used. I stared at the words. My heart beat fast, but my hands were steady. Then I hit post. Messages started coming in almost immediately. From old classmates, co-workers, cousins I hadn't seen in years. A childhood friend wrote, "I saw it too. I always knew you were the one holding it all together. Proud of you for saying it." A distant aunt messaged, "Thank you, your post made me cry. I've seen it in our family too. Always the dependable one gets forgotten." Another wrote, This was my story too, just different names." I didn't respond to every message. I didn't need to. Because this time, I wasn't writing for attention. I was writing to end a silence that had suffocated me for years. But they didn't stop. My parents kept posting cryptic updates. My mother shared an old photo of us, me, Brandon, and Dad, captioned, "Some memories are all we have. We forgive, but we don't forget." My father posted again. We lost a daughter we once called our pride, all because she mistook boundaries for betrayal. And Brandon, always the victim, commented under his own post, "It hurts to be misunderstood, but I'll never stop loving my family, even when some turn cold." I didn't reply. Not because I was weak, but because I no longer owed them an explanation. Whoever wanted to believe their version could keep believing it. But I had spoken, clearly, finally. And in doing so, I reclaimed something they never truly gave me: my voice. After my post, something shifted. Not in them. My parents still posted cryptic, guilt-laced updates. Not in Brandon. He kept playing the same tired role, the misunderstood son. But in me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was constantly bracing for impact. No urgent calls, no emergency texts, no requests disguised as love, just silence. And strangely, it didn't hurt. It felt like standing at the edge of a wide field after a storm. Still raw. Still muddy, but open. And mine. A week after everything went public, I packed a single box and moved out of my apartment near Forest Park. I found a smaller place closer to the Willamette River. Nothing fancy. Just 2 rooms, a balcony, and east-facing windows that caught the morning light. The first night there, I sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by the scent of new paint and the faint sound of water moving downstream. No one knew the address. No one asked for it. It was quiet, but it wasn't lonely. For years, I had filled the silence with productivity, spreadsheets, phone calls, errands, transfers. Now, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like space, like air, like healing. I started writing again. It had been almost 10 years since I let myself write anything that wasn't a budget report or a financial forecast. Now, every evening, I sat at my small desk by the window and wrote. About silence, about guilt that masqueraded as love, about how responsibility when unshared turns into quiet grief. I didn't write to publish. I wrote to reclaim my voice. I also started saying no to social obligations that drained me, to texts from extended family that wanted gossip, to conversations that opened with, "But don't you think you were too harsh?" No, I wasn't harsh. I was done. I used to flinch at the word selfish, as if caring for yourself meant betraying everyone else. But now I wore it like armor, because selfish wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. And after years of being the reliable one, the strong one, the fixer, I needed to be the free one. I kept a few old friendships. The ones who showed up not with questions, but with soup and space. We'd walk along the river, watch the leaves turn gold, talk about everything except family. For once, I could speak without editing myself. I could laugh without checking the time or the weight in my chest. Strangely, I felt lighter, not because the burden had disappeared, but because I had finally put it down. One evening in late fall, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, then answered. "Ariana?" The voice paused. "It's Mom." I didn't speak. She filled the silence. "I'm not calling to ask for anything," she said quickly. "I just wanted to know. Are you doing okay?" There was a pause, a long one. I could hear her breathing, like she was afraid the wrong word might snap the thread between us. I didn't answer immediately. A part of me softened. But I knew better now. Forgiveness takes time. Trust doesn't return with a single call. "I'm living well," I said quietly. "But Mom, I need to live my own life. Not as someone else's plan B, not as the backup solution." She didn't argue, didn't defend, just whispered, "I understand." I didn't say I forgive you, but I also didn't hang up. And sometimes that's enough. Not to fix everything, but to know the wound has started to close. When the call ended, I sat by the window, watching the water reflect the city lights like small floating stars. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for someone to love me properly. I was finally learning to love myself. Weeks passed. No more calls from my father, no more texts from Brandon, no vague Facebook statuses aimed at shaming me back into submission. Just silence. But not the brittle kind I used to live in, the kind that bruised. This silence was different. It wasn't absence. It was peace. I began waking up without dread. The quiet morning light pouring through my windows no longer felt like a countdown to the next demand. There were no overdraft warnings to intercept. No guilt-laced "we need a little help" messages blinking on my phone. It's strange how heavy freedom can feel when you're not used to carrying it. On a chilly Sunday, I walked to the riverside with a thermos of tea. The leaves had turned fully amber and the water shimmered under the low autumn sun. I sat on a bench alone, watching a child feed ducks, his mother standing close by, smiling. And for the first time, I didn't feel the pang I used to feel, that sharp stab of not being part of something warm, because I realized I never was. I was part of obligation, of roles, of expectations dressed up as affection. I was the scaffolding of a house never meant for me to live in, only to keep standing. Sometimes I still thought about them. I wondered if Dad ever fixed the plumbing, if Brandon had finally gotten a job, or if he was still waiting for someone else to do the work. If Mom looked at the front steps and remembered the afternoon she stood there begging, and the daughter who closed the door. But the wondering no longer wounded me. I could think of them and not hurt. And that was a miracle. A few old coworkers had reached out after my post, inviting me to dinner, to weekend markets, to low-pressure coffee meetups. At first I said no, not because I didn't want to go, but because I was still learning how to exist without shrinking, how to show up as someone not indebted, not apologizing for who I was. Eventually I said yes, and it was easy. We laughed, we told silly stories, no one asked me to fix anything. And I realized I was relearning how to be known for me, not for what I gave. One evening, I took out the old Excel sheet, the one where I had listed every dollar I'd sent home. I didn't open it, I just looked at the file name, proof I did enough. Then, slowly, I deleted it. Not because I didn't care anymore, but because I no longer needed to prove anything, to them or to myself. I had given more than most would ever know, and that was enough. I wasn't owed anything, and I no longer owed anyone either. A month later, the leaves were falling faster. Every morning I woke up to a soft golden layer on my balcony. It made the world look hushed, almost sacred. Some mornings I still checked my phone out of habit, expecting something, anything from them, but nothing came, not even on Thanksgiving. And strangely I was okay with that. I made myself a small meal, roasted vegetables, a slice of pumpkin pie, and a glass of wine. I lit a single candle and ate in silence. Not the silence of being forgotten, the silence of choosing to remember myself. Late that evening, as the city dimmed around me, I sat down with a pen and notebook. Not a spreadsheet, not a draft email, just paper and ink, and I wrote a letter I would never send. Mom, Dad, Brandon, I don't hate you. I did for a while. Or maybe I just hated who I became trying to earn your love. I hated how invisible I felt, how replaceable, but hate doesn't hold. It slips through your fingers eventually. So I'm letting go. Of the role I never chose. Of the resentment I carried like a second spine. Of the expectation that one day you would see me, not just as useful, but as worthy. I see myself now. That's enough. I'm not coming back. Not to fix things, not to play along, not to explain again. But I wish you peace. I hope Brandon finds his way. And I hope you find someone to take care of that house. Even if it's no longer me, goodbye doesn't have to mean cruelty. Sometimes it's just a soft door closing so another one can open. I'm choosing that door now. Love, not from obligation, but from freedom, Ariana. I folded the letter. I didn't tear it up, I didn't burn it. I simply slipped it into the back of my notebook and left it there. A quiet monument to the girl I used to be and the woman I had finally become. My story isn't about money. It's not even about favoritism or inheritance. It's about waking up, after years of sleepwalking through sacrifice, and realizing love without boundaries isn't love. It's erasure, and family without respect isn't unity, it's control. I still believe in family, but now I believe in the kind that's built, not demanded. Shared, not drained. The kind that lets you say no and still be loved. So if you've ever felt like the strong one, the dependable one, the one who never needed help, but always gave it, let me say this to you. You are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not cold for setting boundaries. And you are not ungrateful for walking away from people who only loved you when it was convenient. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop showing up for a role you never auditioned for. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is finally ask, what about me? My name is Ariana. I was the quiet backbone of a family that never saw me, until I stood tall and walked away. And in doing so, I found something I didn't even know I had lost. Myself. What do you think of Ariana's story? Was she too harsh? Or was she simply protecting her worth? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and follow the channel for more true, raw stories about family, choice, and the quiet power of walking away. Myself. The one who wakes up in a sunlit bedroom, who makes coffee in silence, who laughs with children who love her back, who writes her name on documents that are real, signed with hands that no longer shake. Before heading in, I looked at the old camper in the backyard, its dented side, the faded sticker still clinging to the rear window. And I smiled, because that camper didn't represent shame anymore. It represented beginning. I whispered into the wind, "You got me through it, and I'll never forget." Then I walked back inside, into the warmth, into the life I chose, into a future I had earned, entirely and unapologetically mine. My story isn't just about survival, it's about returning to yourself, and realizing you were enough all along.